Welcome back, everybody, to week 4 of stage 4 of the Quake Pro League, where our next matchup is going to be dramis up against DaHanG. And our first map looking like Vale of Nath. For the first time today, in fact. It's been a pretty standard kind of set of the same maps this time round. Finally, we're going to go for a little bit of a breakaway, I think.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be interesting to finally see a bit more variety on the maps. I also feel like we've seen a lot of European players today, given the circumstances and the matchups of today. So maybe we're seeing a bit of a trend emerge based on which region prefers what map. So very curious to see how this is going to develop. Of course, dramis versus DaHanG, both top tier players. dramis recently got himself an upgrade to his internet, so maybe he will be sliding around the maps even faster than before, whereas on the other hand, DaHanG is just eternally consistent.
I mean, I feel like there's really never been a point where DaHanG hasn't been consistent. The only time we mentioned it was like a little bit during stage 3, where he wasn't pretty much the only time we were talking about DaHanG and the potential inconsistency came from the fact that he wasn't like just dominantly winning up until Rafa, because that's what his level of consistency was before. Because it's more that the Americas and the players within this part of the world, they're just leveling up and they're getting incredibly strong, and they're proving that week by week. They're doing better and better at the stage finals too. And I think that really, dramis is one of those players that is kind of reaching that point where, again, like if this was a matchup that happened at the start of Pro League, you would assume that DaHanG has this one in the bag. Now, it's really hard to call. Like, DaHanG is going into this as the favorite, I think. But you wouldn't expect the dominant 3-0 like perhaps you would at the start of things.
Yeah. I mean, if we just look at stage 4 so far, dramis has won both of his games. He's beaten Saigib, who clearly is one of the better North American players in the league, and then he also managed to beat Effortless, so clearly he's 2-0 so far, and clearly DaHanG is a bit of a different caliber of an opponent than what he has faced so far, but he's definitely riding a bit of a high right now. So I think, yeah, as you said, this is not going to be an easy win for DaHanG if he even manages to come out on top.
Now, we have the picks and bans, so we can find out what today's journey will be for dramis and DaHanG. Vale of Nath's the first map. Kiel versus Galena. Ruins of Sarnath. dramis is kind of stick within the tradition of the larger champs. It looks like Ranger versus Sorlag. And then finally Awoken, where it's Doomslayer versus Nyx.
Yeah, Vale. Kiel. Second time we're seeing the big champion with the grenades play today. Earlier we saw Xanaku run him on Ruins of Sarnath, if I believe, but Vale is definitely one of Kiel's home turfs, right? This is a map that suits that champion so well. There's so many tight little corridors and choke points where you can use those grenades so effectively. And on the other hand, DaHanG is going to try and counter that by using the Galena. This is also a pretty good map for Galena, because there's so many little nooks and crannies where you can hide those totems to get yourself that overstack build.
And I guess one of the more obvious things that we see all the time is just how prominent larger champions have become on Vale. One of the main things is because of their respawn stack. And Kiel is one of the champions that can do this better than most, really, because as long as you've got one weapon near you, or even no weapons and a starting weapon, if you can do enough damage before the frag, you spawn with some grenades and whatever you've got ready to rock, and Kiel can fight again.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a combat-heavy map that these larger picks become so useful these days.
Yeah, and Vale, I mean, it's a relatively small map, but it's a layered map. There's a lot of verticality to it, but just not that big stretch of land that you're ever going to find on some of the other maps. So when you do respawn, you're pretty often very close to your opponent, which really makes it such a great benefit to have that great starting stack that the heavies have. dramis looks like he will be the one to pick up Mega. Slight delay between the items. Heavy was taken just a bit earlier by DaHanG.
dramis is trying to really kind of control the center point of the map. DaHanG hasn't got a rocket launcher yet. So as long as DaHanG sits in here, which he does manage to jump in there, dramis was able to kind of push it away a little bit. And even then, DaHanG still hasn't got one, and he won't have one after this first fight, which now goes into the favor of dramis, who picked that center point and held it. This LG damage is looking really good for DaHanG so far. does eat one rocket, but this is Galena we're talking about. She has that instant stack when she wants. dramis has been able to take away the Mega. DaHanG looking like he was about to seize it, but that one grenade has just put him behind, and now both players licking their wounds for sure. Thankfully for DaHanG, plenty of lights to take. A rail in hand. Still no rocket launcher. Still no rocket launcher. Gets hit by a rail. Oh, almost gets the crouch.
The crouch. He just dropped down and hit that crouch button to make sure that his head wasn't sticking out any longer than it needed to. And dramis 2 frags of a lead already. But there's one thing to keep in mind when you're playing either of the Liquid boys, whether it's Rafa or DaHanG. They are so good at playing the long game. So this is absolutely nothing for a player of DaHanG's caliber. He can very easily still make a comeback happen. So dramis needs to keep his opponent under lock and key.
I like this positioning from DaHanG too. Massive emphasis on the LG. The danger is that he's actually run out of LG ammo. Oh dear.
Of course, dramis is well aware that even though he has got the grenades and he's got the stack, he's also a much easier target due to his size, and DaHanG is going to treat him like the railgun magnet that he is, once again finding the angle from above. Maybe this is the start of DaHanG mounting a comeback, but just look at that starting stack that dramis has, Ketchup. This right off the bat, that 125 and 100, picks up a small armor, and he's already so well equipped to take a fight, even when all he has is a railgun and those grenades.
Does manage to get some opening damage near the teleporter. How many times we see that on a map like this, so combat heavy? Hang on a minute. Opening damage done by DaHanG, who's really trying to use these pillars for dear life, and he seizes another frag. dramis drops at probably the worst time he could have, because now, right as DaHanG gets that frag, he gets the Mega as well. That is going to allow him to compete with this starting stack, but that's some juicy tri-bolt damage to start things off. From this position, dramis, how does he get himself back into this? It's going to be really tricky for him to fight for this heavy when he hasn't got anything really that he can brawl with. There was no LG, there was no rocket. And he's having to fight with exclusively just grenades and tri-bolt. I mean, he's been able to survive somehow and hit a delicious rail. The fact that dramis made that fight work with such a kind of subpar selection of weapons versus DaHanG, who had almost everything, that was a impressive feat.
dramis is finally starting to find his rhythm with the railgun. After firing 3 shots, he had with the rail, so he had hit none of his opening shots, but now he's right back up to 50%, so he's definitely turning things right back around, landing a bit more of a consistent rhythm right here, which of course you need against a player like DaHanG, especially considering how big and easy of a target Keel is. DaHanG rounds the corner. dramis not quite ready for that. Can he find some more damage though? He knows that DaHanG is eyeing that small green armor. No damage exchanged, but dramis is going to get away with the major item. Once again, he's got a good rotation going on. Plenty of time between Mega and Heavy. So that is going to help him out tremendously. And DaHanG needs to find a way to break that control. Well, dramis missing all of those rails in a row. That's going to help him out a lot, that's for sure. Aggressive push from DaHanG though. dramis still caught with the tri-bolt out.
But all he had to do was just swap to the right little rocket and daisy chain some rockets into grenades, and he's straight back into it. And DaHanG, in the blink of an eye, is now the one that's really worried about this, I think. Has been able to take the heavy. dramis forced to retreat. Can he escape with his life? Looking for an angle. Half of one was there, but DaHanG was already peppering out that tri-bolt, and dramis has to be really careful. He's going to have timing. He heard it get picked up, but for now, he gets taken out anyway. DaHanG. That was a really elongated fight. A bit longer than I think a lot of us expected. Fresh off the spawn. This is a terrible place for dramis. Terrible position. DaHanG had to punish.
Yeah, he does land the final little nade at the end, but he needs so much more than that to stop DaHanG from starting to run away with the lead right now. Beautiful drop, perfectly timed, but he misses all the shots! dramis!
I guarantee he is sitting there right now thinking, how did that happen?
I don't say it often, but that was a bit of a choke from dramis, missing those shotguns on DaHanG with like 1 point of health. But he is immediately going to turn that around with some beautiful rails to make up for it. dramis is only 2 frags behind, cleaning up some of those totems. Definitely need to keep doing that when you're up against Galena. DaHanG caught in a bad spot right now. Can he find the damage? Dropping down and eating a lot of LG is not what he was hoping for there, though.
Now, in this position for dramis, you've got to be really careful, because DaHanG has just been capitalizing on these situations so well, but he squeezes in a little rail.
I don't even think dramis himself, based on how that was going. Beautifully done. DaHanG sticking around! That almost went south for dramis still. He was expecting DaHanG to just jump through the teleporter, but DaHanG stood his ground, stayed there, and landed a lot of LG on an easy big target falling straight down. Luckily for dramis, though, he manages to escape the grasp of that LG, tying things right back up 5-5.
Now DaHanG should be just about to get access to an LG, but he wants to prioritize putting himself in position here first. Really good opening damage on the rocket. Still doesn't have one in hand, though. The rocket launcher's all he's got. The moment he runs out of rockets here, that's it. He's only got the rail, and he has to make it count. Is dramis. Is he going to be brave? Oh, he's going to push. He's going to try and get some of the resources first. An opportunity to disengage. It looks like that's why DaHanG, I think, is eyeing it up. DaHanG's been able to beat him to the punch. Oh, what a combo.
Lead taken. Tank.
That railgun is helping DaHanG so much. And DaHanG, very experienced player, knows exactly what weapons to use against a big target like Keel. Lots of LG and lots of rail, and that's exactly what's making up the vast majority of his damage this time around. Oh, came close to dying there though. One good shot, he could have finished it off. But the rail just came out that's moments sooner.
Looks like DaHanG's still going to keep this objective in mind. In and out, take away those important items. dramis trying to find his feet here, but he's just getting bullied by that rail. And from this situation, I mean, the nature of Veil, you've always got a chance. You've always got a chance to come back, and dramis will know that. One good frag with a decent amount of health left. One good spawn after that, and you know, we've brought things back by the 2 count.
That's not gonna help him though, going up the bounce pad just to take a rocket for his trouble. Dropping down, that's a lot of shaft. DaHanG, perfect position. He knows that dramis wants this, and he's not gonna get it up.
The steal.
Pushing through. That was exceptional aim right there. Just the adjustment on going through the teleporter and instantly flicking down left. That is so practiced, so disciplined for him to be able to pull that off so quickly. Very, very well done from DaHanG.
But on the subject of accuracy, dramis is able to hit some really good shots himself. The danger that it's taking forever, and the aggressive use of the totem. They trade, but that trade is bad news for dramis, because it's DaHanG with 3 frags in the lead. And now less than a minute. If dramis doesn't make something happen right now, we're pretty much going to be over. And DaHanG knows that, and he's going to start to play defensive.
And with 30 seconds left to go, finds his opponent, he will catch a glimpse of that Galena. It takes 1, 2 rails for his trouble, and a 3rd one to finish it off. And I think that if it wasn't done and dusted before, that'll seal the deal for sure. DaHanG convincingly going to be able to take map 1. As we discussed earlier, dramis had a strong start, but, you know, it's how the Liquid guys do it. How often do you see DaHanG or Rafa give up the lead at the beginning, only to then, a few minutes in, just start surrounding their opponent like a boa constrictor and just choking them out of resources, doing constant damage, and ultimately running away with a sizable lead. Exactly what happens here too.
Yeah, DaHanG is a player that it may take him, I mean, depending on the opponent, but it might take DaHanG like a little while to cement that lead. But once it's established and he's really got his claws locked into things, we so rarely see anyone kind of able to then reach that point where they can retake that control. They can retake that lead. dramis did make him fight for it. Like that cementing of the lead didn't happen until much later on this map. And all things considered, that was impressive that dramis brought him to that limit, but the result still kind of ended up the way you expect things to go for DaHanG. And now we're going on to our next map, Ruins of Sarnath, a map that DaHanG looks really strong on, and a matchup that I think he's got some good utility under his belt. We're looking at the two champions. It's going to be another heavy coming out from dramis. He has really opted to go for like the stack today, so it's going to be Sorlag for his next pick. But he's going up against Ranger, and DaHanG, already a player that he plays safe and he's super timing focused. He's really careful, but he can be explosive, and Ranger is an explosive champion.
Very true, but on the other hand, of course, the Sorlag, she's got a lot going for her as well. She's got a tremendous amount of speed when she gets going, that air control, that movement, that allows her to change the direction she's heading in the middle of the air at any time. And of course, as you mentioned yourself, that extra bit of stack that those heavy champions get, and that can really help when you can just by default outclass and outstack your opponent in that regard. So this is going to be a difficult matchup for dramis once again. Yes, he has the overall better speed, the higher mobility, but that orb. There's a lot of very vertical areas on this map where that orb can be such a powerful tool. You can use it to get up all the way to Mega very quickly, get out of that heavy room instantly. So many neat little plays that you can use the orb for, and it'll be important that dramis is not caught off guard and that he's ready for those kind of quick, rapid bursts.
Also worth mentioning, situations where Sorlag can often capitalize really heavily. If you do have a fight that breaks out near Mega, it's the acid spit, really. It's the fact that you can really take quite a lot of punishment as a large champion, but the acid, it shuts down Mega area, it can create hazards that are difficult to step into, and it is Ranger's ability to just snap his fingers and go, you know what, I don't want to deal with this, and he's just orbed right out of there. So an area that Sorlag is quite dominant in is something that Ranger, in theory, has that kind of edge over if DaHanG's able to play it right. I mean, it's entirely dependent on how he uses the orb. It's a lot of versatility that you can use it for mobility, you can use it for attacking, you can use it for both. We'll see how what DaHanG prefers this time around.
With that being said, we are starting to load into the map, so this game is going to kick off moments from now. Ketchup, do you think that dramis is going to be able to bring it back, maybe secure a map for himself?
I think if he does, I don't see it being one-sided. I do still see this map being quite close, just with how DaHanG is able to play on this map. I know he's historically been quite good on this map anyway. Even since like the really early days, like when we first started seeing competitive Quake champions with Ruins in the rotation, that DaHanG was a player that you'd always bet he'd do pretty well on a map like this. And still, it looks like quite a comfort zone for him. But now loading in dramis, DaHanG has that first map. See if it's going to be a 2-0 or whether dramis can stabilize.
Yeah, let's see if dramis cannot get caught up into his own head and just hit that reset button as you should. Instant aggression! The orb comes out, DaHanG chooses not to use it. dramis still though, he's got to be careful. Doesn't have a railgun, doesn't have LG. DaHanG staying at a distance. The rockets are doing a lot though, and so is that spit, the poison. Luckily for DaHanG though, he manages to get himself onto that little health bubble and survive, and it's actually dramis who's going to be pushed back and now has to starve and look around the map for resources.
DaHanG got those resources just a little bit faster. I know that dramis has been able to get the Mega at the very least, but still, all he has is the rocket launcher, and that's what I'm a little bit alarmed about. DaHanG can start to hit this ranged game really heavily. Up close, the LG is going to not really struggle to miss due to the size of Sorlag, and only now dramis has been able to get those all-important weapons. But he's had to give up positioning to do it. DaHanG is now in position to get the heavy, all because dramis, he had to get those weapons. You've got to be able to fight back. Water read though, DaHanG pushes his way forward. Takes a bunch of damage, but the Mega is able to stop the acid ticking down, combined with the fact that dramis hit a delicious rail.
Perfect timing from DaHanG there too. He takes the spit damage, but he knows that there's no cause for panic because he's got that exact Mega timing in his head. DaHanG, very well known for being one of the best timers in all of Quake, but he is still lacking one crucial weapon right now. He doesn't have a rocket launcher yet, and that is something that dramis is definitely outdoing him on right now. He's got all the weapons he could possibly need, even the nail gun, another weapon that DaHanG is only just now not going to pick up. Look at that, ultimately assigned to back up, trying to set a bit of a trap for dramis trying to chase, but that rocket makes him for risky engagements at that medium to close distance.
Unfortunately for DaHanG, he's going to miss a fair few of these rails, and it sounds like dramis is making chase, and he will do. The orb. dramis camping that out for a little bit. Says, I dare you to teleport to it, mate. Bet you won't. But dramis has a sizable lead. And it does look like dramis is using this as the go-ahead to be aggressive. He's going to take a lot of damage himself, but who cares when you hit an LG like that, and he's taken the lead, 1-0. DaHanG has got a pretty okay spawn, though. Right near the heavy, right as it spawns anyway. Yeah, dramis not actually in a position to really take this. That was a good spawn for DaHanG, 100%.
Yeah, and very good positioning there too. He had the LG picked up off his own corpse, and that allowed him to just hold his ground and wait for dramis to jump around the corner, smack dab into the face being hit by that LG, and that just kills your momentum. You just freeze in midair and you take so much damage, and that forced dramis out with a little bit of stack left, and DaHanG capitalized off of that to get himself the frag.
In the note of these major items, there is a divider between the two of them. Again, dramis really tried to be ready for that, but DaHanG still manages to come off on top. And the Mega's in play. dramis choosing to be very aggressive, but he's only got the plasma, and that's going to go down DaHanG. I mean, a little bit concerned about that push from dramis. I think that frag was definitely unnecessary. And it's given DaHanG enough of a lead that he can just start to be a little bit more assertive. As I say, dramis keeping that aggression on point, not letting it undo. I mean, it's the starting stack of these heavies. They can be aggressive off one good weapon. In dramis's case, it was the rocket. He's going aggressive again. dramis pushing on now because he knows he can. I mean, I almost think that's why he pushed in with the plasma back then, because when he wants to push, just look at the rewards. It's just now, it's completely flipped onto the other side, and DaHanG just doesn't have anything. He's just getting overwhelmed, fresh off spawn. He's got no weapons, he's got no way out.
Also, just like, dramis' movement is on point. We know he's excellent with crouch sliders, but he also has mastered air control champions just the same. And that was so impressive when he jumped into the Mega Room earlier. He just maneuvered himself around the walkway, not going over it where DaHanG was expecting him to be. And that just gave him such an evasive skill. Oh, DaHanG, can he get onto the bubble on time? He cannot. The spit, the toxic will end it right there. And dramis will hang on to that one frag of a lead.
I hear a lot of people these days, no matter how or who you see talking, Usher, that dramis might very well have the best movement in the Americas. And it's not just down to the crouch sliding anymore. His execution has just grown so strong over the months that now you look at something like Sorlag and it's just insane. The momentum that this guy can bring forward.
5-minute warning.
Look at that stack he's got going for him as well. Into the spit instantly, yeah. And at that point, DaHanG knows he's taking so much damage, his only chance of surviving is immediately backing up and heading for one of the small bubbles behind him. And dramis, of course, is well aware of that too, knows that DaHanG is going to stand his ground, and gives him a very good read into his opponent's state. Oh, DaHanG out of nowhere!
The direct!
Using... What? DaHanG just basically rocket jumped using the explosion as cover, and dramis was just looking where DaHanG used to be, going, "What? Where are you?" And then DaHanG flying miles above him into the sky, just landing some direct from up above. Beautiful play right there.
But it's what it's been able to do for him. He's got himself one frag, but I'm still eyeing up that stack difference and the fact that dramis seems to have very little fear of the situation. How fast he's flying around this map, not a care in the world, looking to put himself into position, speaking of which, tried to do so on the heavy, but I think DaHanG's kind of wise to it, and he's trying to use this just as an opportunity to get out. He doesn't want to fight for an item, he just wants to get out of this tricky situation. dramis was trying to force onto him, and now we have to trade it off. Light for heavy. DaHanG can't really push, not with a stack like this. dramis has the assets bit ready too, and he has to get rid of that health first. He can't go for a one-on-one fight right now.
dramis doesn't even want to pick this up, because look at how much armor he still has. Picking this up, it's like he gets 20 points of armor out of it. He does not want to do that. He wants to be able to get the most out of the items he picks up, but DaHanG is nowhere to be seen, doesn't want to engage, and I think that's what dramis was kind of waiting for. On the one hand, offsetting the item timers a bit more, on the other, just not wanting to use or get that injection just yet.
DaHanG is playing the information game right now. And he's keeping the timing. Really important for DaHanG. The man famous for it. Whole bunch of opening nails and somehow... Oh, dramis hits a magic rocket. I would have been shocked if DaHanG somehow managed to win that fight. But the nails were insane. This is a tricky spawn though. DaHanG has to hit almost every rail. Good teleport to escape. Oh, and he gets another one! Hitting these delicious shots. Keeping it nice and close.
He's low though. Doesn't have a lot to work with. Mega will be going towards dramis. He takes a rail. But he took it before he picked up the Mega Health, so won't do that much to him. DaHanG's rail has been good though, doing a lot of damage, keeping his opponent's stack down low. Both players actually hitting the rail a whole lot. dramis, 53% railgun for 1.2k damage so far. That's twice what DaHanG has got going for him.
Considering he's the one playing the larger champion, you normally expect it to be the other way around. dramis is looking for more defense. Cannot allow DaHanG to get too healthy. One of the dangers is that dramis is getting hit hard. And he catches him. dramis needs to look for one more shot. Misses the clutch shot. And DaHanG punishes. But, as is the way with large champions, DaHanG still has a lot of work to do because there's just a huge delay. Speaking of which, that's the opportunity to go in. Saving grace, one rail hit, but with the Mega just about to spawn, I'm not sure.
DaHanG was holding the position very cleverly, just looking at the teleporter exits and keeping his escape route open down below. But then the moment he decided, like, okay, it should be clear right now, he should have already come through, and he moved up ahead. That's just when dramis made his appearance, and it gave him a nice little frag. DaHanG, very aggressive, doesn't want to use the orb, just throw his opponent off of his game a bit, trying to juke out dramis. Where is he? dramis jumps through at the wrong time. Once again tied up, 8-8.
Very hard call to make for dramis right there. You can even see that DaHanG was thinking that next step ahead to cut him off all the same. And dramis just stuck true, and really not much he could do in that situation with a stack that low. At the last possible second, DaHanG is starting to steal away. We have less than a minute. Shades of the last map, perhaps, Flea, as now DaHanG can afford to be a little bit more defensive if he wants to. Just listen out. See if he can catch Sorlag. Whoa! Okay, here comes a Sorlag, point blank. Wait a second, dramis. He has to make this one count. Can't afford to go down though, but with basically no stack remaining.
Mega spawn for him though. He picked up Mega. Here we go. This is gonna be the final engagement, and it'll be DaHanG. The perfectly placed rocket at his opponent's feet. That is going to make sure that our guy from Liquid DaHanG, will be able to secure this with at least a 2-0 victory. GG, well played already.
Another one. Another situation where it goes to DaHanG, but it's incredibly close. What is it with today's games that bring us this selection?
It is phenomenal, right? I can count the amount of maps that haven't been really close on 2 fingers, I think. Something like that. So we have had some really close, nail-bitingly intense games so far. But DaHanG, yeah, we talked about this earlier, right? When we were talking about, it was Zeneku, was one of the people that we were talking about earlier. Just getting close, and CNZ as well, getting close doesn't get you points. You can keep it as close as you want, but that 3-0 still leaves you with 0 points and gives your opponent a whole lot of movement in the rankings. So it's just not quite good enough yet. Still though, dramis one final chance to get himself a few points on the board.
One of those cases where the frag count was so high, dramis consistently really forcing DaHanG to brawl with him at every given opportunity. So close to it working out, but we've got to give DaHanG his props. How consistently ready he was for a fast and furious fight where he had to hit high damaging shots. There wasn't really, like dramis, he was actually playing, his aggression was played well, where just how fast he was playing the matchup was like, there was no room for error. DaHanG had to hit really impressive shots on a consistent basis to be able to hang, but he could. And he did it consistently. Like, it was just that DaHanG his combat skills in that map were so impressive that he could still go toe-to-toe and make these weird situations work in his favor.
I'm not sure if it was intentional, but DaHanG was indeed able to hang in that map. As we are moving into the third and the final one shortly, this will be Awoken, it looks like. DaHanG playing on Nyx, going up against dramis on the Doomslayer catch-up.
Yes. Now, Nyx is a champion that DaHanG is highly talented with. We have seen that throughout the course of Pro League. Both champions are going to have very similar lines of movement, really. You're going to have the double jump from Doom, but there are so many walls of which you can use the double jump to achieve kind of the same effect that on this map, it may as well be a double jump for Nyx as well. DaHanG, patient. He's hitting some great shots today. The Ghost Walk, it's been quite the MVP today in some of these matchups. And, I mean, dramis, he's not going to want it to be a 3-0. You know,
no.
With how close he's able to make these maps consistently here, I think he's going to be really disappointed if he gets 3-0'd, because it's one of those things where it's been quite similar today anyway, that if you just looked at the scoreboards and you see a 3-0, it doesn't quite do justice how close the maps are consistently being today. And I would hate for this to be just another one of those occasions. I'd like to see dramis at least get this map because of how hard he's making DaHanG sweat for these wins.
I agree. Seeing a 2-1 would absolutely do this more than justice for dramis. This is going to be a battle of mobility. Two champions that have a very useful passive ability, helps them get around the map so easily. And Awoken is just probably the single most suited map to use these abilities on. So we're going to see a whole lot of double jumps, a whole lot of wall jumps, very quick movement, and that's going to make it, on the one hand, very easy to catch your opponent, but on the other, also makes it pretty easy to get away from them as well. So expect quite a bit of a brawl. Some very fast frags is what I'm expecting for this matchup.
Well, that matchup, we are moments away from jumping in. It's going to be Awoken, dramis, and the Doomslayer, DaHanG, and the Nyx. We're going to get this show on the road, the final map between these players. dramis has been working so hard and getting it so close, but DaHanG is able to inch it out. I am curious to see if it'll be a 3-0 today.
dramis picked himself up the Mega. Oh. Messing up the jump a little bit right there. Luckily for him, not in a bad situation or anything.
Yeah,
around 6 seconds of delay between the items, though.
It was right when DaHanG went around the corner, too. So of all the places that you could quite not make the jump, that's probably the least punishing that we could have had. Now, when it comes to items, that eternal trade-off begins. Not enough of a difference that you can really start to mount both of them yet. Unless you're able to secure a frag or something, but this patience. We see this patience on Awoken so much. Especially with both players having very similar movement. That wall jump can be used on so many pillars, little walls here and there that, like I said, wait a minute, DaHanG. I think I blinked and missed it.
That was quick. That was, what, 72% LG? Ketchup? 72? Obviously, it's gonna drop a fair bit. But that was absolutely insane. The tracking, like his crosshair was glued to his opponent. dramis, you're railable! He's gonna be able to make his way onto the small armor, even popping the Berserk. First time we're seeing that today, but DaHanG is just going to stand his ground and land the super shoddy to his face to extend his lead already.
That was a last resort in every sense of the word. Berserk so rarely used in Duel. I mean, it can be good in other game modes, but the fact that you're stuck in melee for a set time, you can't cancel the Berserk either, means that, like, it's as situational as it gets, really. And that position, dramis just trying so hard not to go down. Is managing to get a little bit of a see you later rail. Right, as DaHanG's about to go to the corner there. Both players taking some damage, but dramis is a little bit too early near the Mega, and even that rocket alone would have been a tragic one to get caught by.
Yeah, he's got to be careful. He's still at a railable health right now. Does manage to pick up the Mega. It's going to help him out quite a bit. So it's dramis who has the rotation on the items, but DaHanG who has got the lead. Also quite a bit more damage going DaHanG's way. 900 damage versus around 400 for dramis. So player from Liquid so far definitely dishing out most of the damage and hurting his opponent far more than he is taking the pain in return.
And dramis isn't really having a lot of opportunities to obtain that damage. DaHanG is being very tricky to pin down, and when there is an opportunity, DaHanG has the Ghost Walk ready to rock. Looks like he wasn't going to use it just yet. DaHanG is weak, but as long as there's lights and there's health and means to get your resources back on the map, DaHanG is not going to force the Ghost Walk until it's absolutely necessary. Speaking of which, he is going to use it there. dramis still kind of stuck out in the open. After these missed Ghost Walks, dramis doesn't quite get the call out for where the retreat's going to be. The stack remains very similar. DaHanG keeping a timing on as much things as possible. You know he's going to be looking out for those smalls every step of the way.
DaHanG is very quick on the Ghost Walk. As you said, he doesn't use it when he doesn't need to, but when he realizes he's caught in a bad situation, he pulls that ability instantly. A lot of players, they don't. They tend to stick around a bit too long, try and take the fight and see how it goes, and then by the time that they use the Ghost Walk, they've already taken a lot of damage. DaHanG, absolutely not one of those. Wants to pop it the moment he senses the danger and knows he's in a bad spot. dramis now really trying to find his opponent using the tribals. Probably been watching the stream, saw how effectively some of the other players have been using it today. But he just can't quite catch his opponents.
Now, what dramis has been able to do at the very least is establish a nice amount of stack. And when you combine it with that tri-bolt, this could very well be an opening, but DaHanG not going in without there being some kind of defensive plan, a part of the map that's just hard to chase without taking damage.
That was quite comical from dramis' point of view. Oh, there we go. Those two rolls are anything but comical. Just him trailing behind his opponent, zoomed in, and DaHanG just one step ahead of him as he just dances out of the room. dramis, though, fortunately for him, manages to land the shots. Still, not even halfway through the map. Good, the rails are coming through, and once again, that's 2 for 2 the second time in a row. 60% railgun coming out of dramis. Definitely his star weapon this map. And he did 650 out of his 1000 damage with the railgun, so that's a whole lot of rail. LG on LG. DaHanG, beautiful.
Oh dear. dramis popping berserker. That was either a spur of the moment decision to escape and he stuck around, or straight up, I mean, maybe dare I say, he might have fat fingered it. I just think he might have accidentally pressed the. It just didn't seem like something that he would normally do, right? That was very unusual.
My feeling is that he probably dropped down, realized he was in a bad spot, hit the ability, and just wanted to run away to a heavy machine gun. But then something in his mind was like, hang on. He's actually right at the edge. I can maybe punch him, or something along those lines. That he felt like maybe the pressure isn't that high.
Second guessing, perhaps.
Yeah, I feel like that might have been it. But of course, could be a slip of the finger as well. But good little rail. 1, 2. Can he find the third? DaHanG knows his opponent is hurting. The third one will indeed be pixel perfect. And now, player from Liquid starting to extend his lead.
Now, the danger is that we've just been kind of speculating on that one specific moment of this map, right? But in that time, DaHanG has really cemented himself on this map, and we've seen how dangerous DaHanG can be once he has a lead of this caliber. He has 3 frags in the lead now. There's not a huge amount of this map left. DaHanG still being aggressive here. There is time before the mega spawns, so the Ghost Walk to reposition and surprise DaHanG. Making pressure, dramis gets a light. These missed rails are going to be great, but DaHanG still has the last laugh because he's the one that gets the mega. All about damage. Damage that DaHanG is dishing out. dramis is really struggling to keep up with. The question is, how do you get yourself back into this matchup with a DaHanG that's hitting all these crazy good shots on you? Once again, he's just in a better position for this item. He's done enough damage now that dramis, pushing for any of these items is a massive risk. Oh, and DaHanG has the call out. What a read from him. And he's going to get the punishment. A frag. Another one. Less than 3 minutes on the clock, and DaHanG looks like he's fully in control of this. I am worried for dramis at this point.
DaHanG is also just getting his frags at just the right time. You know, he kills his opponent, manages to keep a lot of his stack, and then afterwards he immediately just takes away the mega. Oh, dramis. Not sure if this is gonna go. 75 points of health. DaHanG can't find the angle to shut him down right there.
Stopwatch.
The LG in the back, he knows that the DaHanG doesn't have the Ghost Hawk because that was just used. He wants to apply some more pressure. LG from below, again the Berserk, but it falls short again. I think we've seen more offensive Berserks being used in this map alone than we usually see in, 2-3 weeks of the Pro League together.
I mean, most players don't do it, and there is a strong reason for it. Berserk is just not really an ability that you use in Duel. It just doesn't really have as much of a purpose. I mentioned how situational it can be. I do fear that dramis is a little bit checked out at this point, because in those up-close situations, the second you pop Berserk, the danger is that you're at a set speed, and it's a high speed, sure, but as long as your opponent is just backing off and hitting you with the LG, in a lot of cases you can't really chase them down. Yeah. And you're simply just delivering yourself on a silver plate. DaHanG! No, Berserk refuses to let the Berserk work at any point. Dramis now, I feel like he's a bit checked out right now.
You hear the noise, the audio cue starts playing, and then it's just right into the shotgun. But yeah, as you are saying, really, Berserk is generally only used in Duel as a means of escaping, right? Because it gives you the instant speed boost. You instantly hit that maximum walking or running velocity that you can get with Doom, so it helps out so much if you have to get out of a tight spot. But yeah, trying to use it offensively, as you just mentioned, all you can do is punch. You're stuck in melee mode for several seconds at a time. Nothing you can really do. You give up so much noise with that audio cue playing as well, so next to nothing to do once you're in that mode, unless you're really just touching noses with your opponent. Otherwise, it tends to be a death trap more than a benefit.
Unfortunately for dramis, he's not been able to get his hands on any weapons during that time, and I do strongly believe that this is just a done deal. A couple of minutes ago, and a chance for dramis, who's just thinking, you know what, it's over. And I just don't think he's all the way there. Can't really say I blame him with 20 seconds left on the clock, and a map that is 100% finished. Victory lap for DaHanG, for sure. Shame to see it end this way. Dramis fought to the absolute limit against DaHanG for the first two matches. This one has just absolutely fallen away from him. But DaHanG, a happy 3-0 all the way around.
You win.
Yeah, I think this was definitely the most one-sided map we've seen all day. As you mentioned yourself, Dramis probably towards the end. He came out confident still in Awoken, but then things just started slipping through his fingers. It became increasingly difficult and at some point basically impossible to make the comeback happen. And then you just saw the misplays come out, right? The Berserk started showing their face in situations where it really shouldn't have been used. And then towards the end, you could tell he was done. He realized it was over. And that's going to be a 3-0 for Liquid DaHanG.
It just seemed a little bit like the Berserk only served the purpose to cost DaHanG, dramis frags. In the favor of DaHanG, you just don't see that ability used. Like, obviously not to pin the entire blame on that one ability usage. It was one of the more immediate things in quite a few of those fights. I think I counted like 4 separate occasions there. But other than that, it's just the comfort that DaHanG feels once he's in the lead and how hard it can be to break that cycle. We didn't really get to see it much in the first 2 maps because of how close things were and how back and forth it was. But it just didn't really look like the same dramis to me in the 3rd map compared to something like Ruins, where he was confident, he was aggressive, like his accuracy was through the roof. We just didn't really see any of that on a time.
No, and there were some great shots as you're seeing right now. Some beautiful rail combos rather. We saw numerous times just dramis hitting 1-2, 1-2 on the rails on the light champion, like DaHanG playing Nyx helped him out tremendously. But around the midway point, things just really started getting out of control. DaHanG, you see him with the railgun so often in these replays, really helped him out a tremendous deal. And then dramis he applied too much pressure, kept putting himself in situations where he was constantly taking damage from DaHanG, and that just led to his demise. 3-0 for DaHanG.
Now, that's going to be the end of our second to last series of the day. As you can see here, just these final moments, these final replays of just getting the job finished. If you're in DaHanG's position, it's nice to see that he's still true to form and still looking as good as ever. But I mean, dramis, we can't really compare dramis's recent performance, I think, with the final map. I think it's much fairer to compare the first and second. I think that was a much clearer example of how dramis is currently shaping up. Just a bit of a unfortunate way to end the series, really, where just DaHanG was the dominant one, and dramis didn't really look all the way there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it probably just kind of started weighing on him, you know? He put so
Yeah.
much effort into the first two maps, came so close, and then it ended up going wrong at the very end both times anyways. So that probably just, it did a number on his mental state going into the final map. And I agree with you, those first two maps, that's what dramis is like these days. That third one, unfortunate, but I don't really think that that's just the player that he is.
100%. Our next matchup and our final matchup of the day. Cypher up against Razy, saving arguably the best for last. And for one final time, we're going to cut to a break and set that up. Thanks for staying with us so far. This is week 4 of stage 4 of the Quake Pro League, and we'll be back in a few minutes.